China's Australian tourism has crashed. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Got my morning stein of coffee and I thought we would have a look at this article that came out recently from Bloomberg because it discusses Chinese tourism to Australia. Big part of, our relationship with China and our economy, to be quite honest. Let's have a look. So China's love affair with Australia fizzles as the tourism boom comes to an end. Now, the first assumption I would make, or the first conclusion I would draw from this, or theory, let's put on our theory craft hat, is if tourism from China to Australia is decreasing, one could argue perhaps that has something to do with the domestic spending capacity over there as well. And since our Treasurer is pinning all hopes of the Australian economy driven up by Chinese domestic spending, that would make me question that theory. What do you think, guys? You think it's just another insane rambling by Florian because I've not had enough coffee? Could be. It's good. It's good. So, growth in visitors and student numbers has slowed sharply. The slowdown could cost the economy more than $500 million. Australia is losing its appeal for Chinese tourists and students as the harmful trade war between the US and Beijing, paired with a slowing economy at home, spooks them into staying put. Slowing economy at home. Well, there you go. The number of visitors from China increased just over 1% in the 12 months through July, matching the weakest rate in 9 years. While the growth in students traveling down under to attend university has also slowed rapidly. Even a weakening Australian dollar hasn't managed to halt the downturn. I still remember from my uni days that lecturers were telling me that if the international students can afford to go to the US, they go there first. Australia's a second choice. We suspect the trade dispute is a large reason for the decline, says Hayden Dimes, an economist at Australia and New Zealand Banking Group Limited. It creates uncertainty for both visitors and in particular students. So China's Aussie love affair has fizzled out. So growth in short-term visitors, it's still growing, but look at that crash in growth. Okay, and you got to remember their population grows too as well. So it's all relative. So there you go, 2014, 15, 16, boom. I wonder if that fed into the foreign investment into our housing sector that was quite high in 2015, 16. Perhaps mum and dad buying an apartment for their child studying in Australia. Perhaps. Dimes reckons that if the slowdown in Chinese student and visitors is prolonged, it could cost Australia's economy, the most China-reliant in the developed world. Let's just dwell on that, actually. We are the most China-reliant economy in the developed world. Okay. China, the bastion of freedom and democracy. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Wow. About 800 million Australian. 543 million US. So nearly getting close to $1 billion over the next 2 years. It's a big chunk of money, guys. Austrade, the government's trade promotion and investment attraction agency, is already scaling back forecasts into tourist activities, or arrivals and activities. Well, there we are. Australia has so far mostly benefited from the US-China trade dispute. Beijing's stimulus to offset weaker shipments has boosted demand for its commodities, and the lower Australian dollar is making firms more competitive. Indeed, the slowdown in Chinese tourism and education in the face of a weaker currency is surprising, given it makes cities like Sydney cheaper for visitors. I wonder if the whole Sydney lockout debacle had any effect on that. Do you think it did? I don't know. I'm just thinking back to my time in Hong Kong, how crazy it was there, particularly the nightlife. And then you come to Sydney and it just seems insane. So Australia's booming growth in Chinese students have tailed off. Okay, so this is the student numbers. Look at that. 16, 17. So this one here wouldn't be aligned with property purchase, you wouldn't think. Oh, I guess it could be too. Mum and dad coming over for a holiday to look at the properties for their students that are over here. Maybe. Maybe. Services are increasingly important to Australia's economy. Over the past 5 years, such exports have grown at an average of 13% per annum, Dime said, noting tourism and education's share have both increased. China is the single largest country for Australia for international students and visitors, accounting for about 26% and 15% respectively. He said, weakening economic activity and political tensions around technology, communications, and trade have influenced Chinese tourist numbers, says Ryan Felsman, a senior economist at the Securities Unit of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. The slowdown highlights some downside risks to Australia's services sector. Still, there is some light emerging from the trade war's instigators. North American tourists are flocking to Australia in record numbers, inspired by the US's record economic expansion, as well as the Aussie's 16% slump against the greenback since the beginning of last year, and the weaker Canadian dollar. Well, that's quite an interesting look at things. Do you think the US will offset China's tourism and education numbers? I doubt it. I personally seriously doubt it. But the fact that we're the most China-reliant country in the developed world, we'll have a look here. This is another article I read previously, and it goes through just Australia's dependence on the Chinese economy, which is a precarious situation to be put in. I mean, here you go. This is estimated Chinese student fee revenue from universities. Adelaide, but international students as a percentage of all students were 28%. Chinese students were 53%. Total university revenue from continuing operations, 929 million. Internationals were bringing in 100. Oh, just Chinese were bringing in 119 million ANU. Their revenue, 1.2. The Chinese were bringing in 164. Melbourne, 2.5. Chinese were bringing in 410. Queensland, 1.8. Chinese were bringing in 256. So you can see a hefty chunk. Look at that, Sydney. 2.3 billion. Nearly over $500 million is coming from their international Chinese students alone. I mean, there you go, guys. Look at UTS. 178 million out of 953. UNSW, 2 billion, and it's 446 million. So it just shows you how much these universities are dependent on this revenue. And I would hazard a guess from my time at university that most of this money isn't improving the overall quality for the students, but a lot of it is getting plowed into, infrastructure spending or capex spending, or hiring people that I would say bureaucrats, glorified bureaucrats that probably don't add much value to the academic rigor of these institutions or the research capacity. I might be wrong. That's just based on my anecdotal experience. I haven't actually dug down into it. But everyone I've talked to, and everyone you've seen around the world, all the examples were just how the admin staff increase at these places, and they don't add anything to the research or teaching capacity. And oh yeah. So here we go. Estimated Chinese students' fees as a percent of revenue. There you go. Sydney, 23%. And then there's the whole question of the Confucius Institute or organization having influence on our universities and tourism. And I know these numbers are wrong from this article, but it just shows you how dependent Australia is on tourist numbers. So it looks like, this will have a flow-on effect to the rest of the economy. Just think $800 million out of the economy for a 2-year period, over 2 years. What flow-ons would that have? Let me know what you all think in the comments, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you later. Take care.